Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today for our Leicester review is Mozza. How you doing, buddy?
I've strapped myself firmly in because I'm very excited to hear about Drew's away day at the King Power Stadium.
I'm
How are
talking
you?
to Drew. Drew's also here, mate. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to change before I left the Justice League meeting. So I'm doing well.
I always knew you were Batman. It's fine. It's all good. It's all good. I don't know which one of us is Robin, but we'll go with that. We'll go with that. We're here to talk about yesterday's 2-0 victory at the King Power. Drew, you were at the game. I know we'll get to you and talk to you a bit about a few things that you noticed from watching at the game. But we'll start obviously by looking at the starting lineups to the game. Mozza, I'm going to come to you with this one this week. Actually, looking at the starting lineups for the game yesterday, were there any shocks for you? Were you happy to see, Sander Berg back? What were your overall thoughts of that starting 11 for Fulham?
Yeah, I mean, I was overjoyed to have Lukic and Berger back in that midfield role. I think we've been absolutely aching for that for quite a long time. On the flip side, my concern was ESR starting, and I'm sure we will most definitely get to him later. I did quite like the look of the bench as well. Good to see Harrison Reed back in there as well, and Josh King there. So I was hoping at least one of those two would come on at some point, and I wasn't even disappointed to see Mr. Tom Kearney there either. Shock horror.
He's coming. He's getting to you. He's getting to you, isn't he? He's getting to you. Talking
So
to
he's
Tom
taking
Kenny, obviously this episode's coming out on a Monday morning, so today's actually Tom's birthday. So he's 35 today. So happy birthday
He
to
doesn't
Tom.
look a day over 34.
Does he? No, doesn't.
We love you, Tom.
Yeah.
But we'll go from that. Obviously, Drew, you were at the game on Saturday.
Yes,
Give us a quick rundown, mate, on the overall feeling before we sort of break into the game. What was the general consensus around, the standard stuff, pre-game? Were people excited? Were people worried after the game on Tuesday night? How were people genuinely feeling going into the game?
There was definitely a residual feeling of I'd call it disgust following Tuesday night's capitulation at West Ham. There was no one was happy about it. I mean, I myself refer to the performance as unprofessional, and there was a definite I wouldn't call it apprehension, but bearing in mind how over the course of the season we've for example taken 2 points away from home games against the bottom three in the league, how one of your favourite subjects, Ash, we've thrown a points away from winning positions. I think there was a sense of apprehension. A lot of people still, like I said, there was a residual taste of disgust in the mouth of Fulham fans following Tuesday.
Yeah, I think for myself it was a bit of apprehension. The only thing that I was sort of semi-confident about is that we hadn't lost 2 away games in a row for quite some time now as a football club, which is an exceptional feat for us considering that we went years where we won more than one a season. We were giddy. So it's one of those things, isn't it? Looking at that first half, Drew, obviously you were at the game, you saw the balance of play. For me, this one was slightly different to how we've seen things over the last couple of months. We're used to Fulham coming out and dominating the first 20 minutes of football and then, usually having a bit of a wobbly spell in the game. But we seem to start this game a little bit. I don't know if we were on edge or Leicester were just really, really up for it in that first 20 minutes. But we were a little bit under the cosh for the first sort of 20, 25 minutes. Leicester had a few opportunities. When watching the game, mate, what was your general thoughts to that? Was it more us not being awake, or was it more them just really being up for the scrap at that time?
I think to be fair, it's a combination of things. I mean, they're in trouble, so they had the home crowd. The onus was upon them to attack us, but we just weren't with it in the opening period. I mean, you've probably seen the highlights. Castagna nearly put into his own net. Leno bailed us out. Their left back for reasons I still cannot explain, despite me being at the game and having watched the highlights, their left back managed to march around midfield and through our defence and then shot over from the edge of the penalty area. There was a lot of cries from the Fulham faithful asking the team to wake up. There seemed to be a lack of urgency, a lack of invention. It was literally a nothing first half. The highlights probably showed it's slightly distorted, made it seem that Leicester were more in it than they were, and they did have a couple of chances, but once their initial push didn't result in anything, I mean, they are a poor team. They are a poor team, and Fulham weren't really troubled. But we can't sit there and say that we were well in control or we deserved to be anything other than we were. It was a really, really flat first half. Really flat.
I think we came into the game after about sort of 25 minutes. We sort of woke up that, we were all texting each other while the game was going on. You were at the game and sort of giving us live updates of stuff that we weren't sort of catching. But, it felt like after about 25 minutes, we started waking up a bit. We started producing a bit more. We had the same old issue that we seemed to have, that, we were really, really good up until the edge of the box. And then we sort of didn't really know what to do as soon as we got to the edge of the box. There was a few opportunities where, Harry Wilson could have potentially had a shot from distance, but took an extra touch. And there was that one that went through the Bassi that he then had a shot that he pulled just wide. There was one that Iwobi had a shot that was saved or blocked, and then Robinson had a shot, and then Iwobi hit the bar from what was effectively just a wayward cross that sort of went that way. But other than those opportunities, we didn't really look mega dangerous. Didn't really look like we had the that Midas touch that we need. We've been saying for a long time that there's one thing that we have our problem with, and that's physically actually putting the ball in the net. Mozza, what were your sort of views on that last bit of that first half? Because we really had come back into the game, but it just looked like we just couldn't. We weren't going to score if that first half went on for another 20 minutes.
Well, I thought until we did come alive after 25 minutes, I thought we were lucky not to be 2-0 down, really, because Leicester had a good couple of chances, and I think we were lucky more than anything. But coming to the last 5 minutes of the first half, I was expecting the worst. You said it on the last podcast. I'm a classic Fulham fan, so very glass half empty kind of view on things. And my prediction on the last podcast, when we did the preview for the game, was 1-0 Leicester. As much as I hate to, not want it to go our way, but I could just feel us conceding. Like, I'm amazed we kept a clean sheet in this game. But yeah, I wasn't filled with confidence by the end of the first half, and I could see it going awry.
Yeah, well, there is one thing I do want to talk about from that first half. So we had a conversation amongst ourselves. Anyone who follows me or Drew on Twitter would have seen it speaking about it, that there was still that rearing conversation about ESR and what's going on with him mentally at the moment, because we all believe that it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing that's been going on with him. Because he's just been, the work rate's just not quite been there. And we had this discussion about what is it with him? Is it a case of his work rate's not there? And I think, Drew, you said it's more of a sense of urgency, like he doesn't seem to have any at the moment. I'm hoping, obviously, when we go and talk about the second half, we'll talk about his goal, and hopefully that'll change. But reflection on that now, sort of away from the games, you still think that sort of it's been a bit of an issue with him? Is it just been a sense of urgency, or is it just a confidence thing that we're hoping the goal might fix?
I mean, I was just going through our messages that we were sending each other and talking about the one big chance about 37 minutes in, when Fulham opened Leicester up, but no one would take responsibility for just putting their foot through it. And outside of Iwobi yesterday, who I thought was our best player in the first half from an offensive point of view, no one really wanted to assert themselves. And the reason I'm saying this is because it leads me on to ESR. He definitely does present to me as a confidence player, someone who definitely needs an arm round them. And I think you've got to go back quite a few years It's a shame AJ isn't here to correct me, but I think you've got to go back quite a few years to find the season when ESR has played as much as he has up until this point. And I do wonder if his injuries are somehow linked to his state of mind, in the sense that, you know, it's almost psychosomatic, because there's no doubt that he's got some wonderful touches and some wonderful talent, but you just feel that there's so much more to come, and I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, that it is to do with his state of mind more than anything else. I really am, because in the first half, you were just, Leicester were a poor team, and I was just willing him, you know, to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and it just wasn't happening. And outside of, like I say, Iwobi, who was prepared to run at them, there really wasn't much going on. It was. When I messaged you boys at half time, I said it's unstimulating. It pretty much was. And I'm not singling out ESR. I'm just talking across the board. It was unstimulating. And the Fulham faithful, you could tell they were getting restless. The longer it went on against such a poor team, and Mozza's already alluded to it, we've AJ calls it our Robin Hood complex. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I was apprehensive, but you just couldn't see where we were going, you know?
Yeah, we then made a bit of a weird substitution at halftime. We sort of assumed at the time it was down to an injury, but it's since come out that it was a tactical one, that Alex Iwobi was taken off and
No, he
Adama
had flu.
Traore was brought on. Did he have the flu? Okay,
He
I
had
read
flu.
somewhere yesterday it was a tactical decision. So
No,
that's
it
fine.
was he was feeling a bit ropey in the run up to the game, but he's so integral to the way we play. Silva put him on, but I think after 45 minutes he just ran out of steam, which is why the change was made. Yeah, sorry, Ash, but that's what it was.
No, it's fine, mate. You're correcting with the right information, so that's exactly what we want. You know, we look into it, and you know, that change, I don't know if it sort of uneased Leicester's midfield just slightly, because it sort of immediately worked off in the second half when, you know, we played a nice few balls across the pitch. Harry Wilson with a good bit of control, considering I think he sort of miscontrolled his first touch, put the ball back across the goal, and ESR basically headed in from 2 yards out. He couldn't really miss. We'll talk about ESR again as this goal goes in. It wasn't anything special in terms of his finish, but you can tell it really meant something to him. There was a couple of cuts where it went back. It looked like he was maybe had a bit of a tear in his eye. It looked like it was a lot of pressure sort of lifted off his shoulder, and I think it was evident from the game afterwards, the confidence that goal will give him, and hopefully we'll see the rewards of that. Mozza, looking at the goal, mate, obviously we've taken the lead straight away after the second half, which is something we never do, which is great. You know, we're not usually that team that scores straight away. We're usually the team that concedes. It was a good bit of play by us, a good little finish as well. Were you relieved to see it go in? Was it sort of finally a bit of, you know, good work, and we've managed to score straight away from it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Relief was the word I was going to use, but I suppose a bit of shock as well, like you say, because we don't often score a goal that quickly coming out in the second half. But leading up to it, yeah, it was a great cross by Jimenez into Wilson. I don't want to say, I've watched it a few times back, the highlights of it, and I don't want to say Wilson miskicked it or anything. I think it was deliberate, like he meant for that overhead kick, if you can call it that, across goal. And I think, what was it, Lukic next to ESR near enough? I think he tried to go for it. So luckily, it was a tapping goal by ESR. So it was good for him to get. And where we've just been speaking about the man himself, I noticed afterwards, Fulham, the players celebrated quite a lot and almost formed a group hug round him in a way. I don't know if you saw that, Drew, being there yourself, but I don't know if I've misremembered that. But I remember watching it at the time on screen and thinking, oh, are they there? I shouldn't be thinking this, but I thought, oh, they're milking this a bit, aren't they? But I think that just goes to show it must have meant a lot, and everyone in the squad was aware.
I think you're right, Mozza, and I think there was. I mean, if you contrast the celebrations for the first goal with the celebrations of the second goal, which looked like it was something that was scored in training, by the reaction, I think you're right, and I think that, and I don't want to. I'm not like trying to pour it on ESR, but I think people are aware that obviously he's left his boyhood club. It's a massive fee. He's a confidence player. He struggled with injuries. So yeah, I think everything you say, Moz, is right. I think he struggled, and I think the team knew that, and I think that's why everyone gathered around him, which is quite nice, and says to a lot about the spirit in our squad. Because while they've got the black and white shirt on, no one wants to be seen hanging them out to dry. I mean, Pereira, as our regular viewers will know, has been one of my the banes of my life. But I will say this: he does try things, and he does have the confidence that probably ESR lacks, and which was so obviously missing in the first half. But that goal did him the world of good. Definitely did him the world of good.
Yeah, I think ultimately the game completely changed as soon as we scored, because you could really tell the Leicester fan base were in a position that Leicester were in the league, because they immediately started sort of turning on the team a bit. Every little mistake they were making, they were sort of getting on top of them, and their players sort of shrunk a little bit into the game, and we really, really grew in the game. And pretty much from then on out, it was full confidence by us going forward, and with the ball, we looked dangerous almost every single time we got the ball and we moved forward with it. Lukic really, really came into the game after we went a goal up and sort of did that box to box thing that we've all been really appreciating him doing over the last season. But he really, really picked up. Even Adama looked, like he had more to his game than just that one really pacey run. He looked like he was controlling the ball and moving the ball. And we just looked really, really in control. And then obviously we scored a second goal, which is, again, beautifully taken. I think Adama's one of those players for me that when he shoots, he either has a crisp, beautiful, easy looking finish, or he hits the corner flag from 5 yards out for no reason. Like he's one of those players that you either sitting there going, well, that looked really assured, or you're sitting there going, how's he done that when he shoots? And again, another well worked team goal, another good break, another good ball out wide, another good ball across the pitch. Well spotted ball across the pitch to him, who with a nice easy finish drew. As soon as we go 2-0 up, you look at the game and it's pretty much done and dusted. Really, Leicester didn't really look like they had much at all. Their fans had completely turned on them up by this point. And we looked overly assured. Really weirdly, usually we go 2-0 up in a game and there's 20 minutes left, I'll be a bit worried about, we concede one, we'll capitulate. But I wasn't really worried at all. We looked like we were just completely, like walking through the rest of it from there. After we scored, what was the feeling for you in the crowd? What was the feeling in the ground? Because it just felt like it was quite easy going from then on.
It was. Going back to the Adama goal, if you look at it, it explains why Leicester concede. I mean, there wasn't anyone within 10 square yards of him. And going to your point about him, Ash, the reason I think it was such an assured finish is because he had it clear in his mind what he was going to do. There was no thinking. And when he put the ball in the net, it was almost like he expected to do it. Yeah, it was a very, very good finish, and he had all the time in the world. But because he didn't have time to think, or alternatively, he'd made up his mind exactly what he was going to do. That's why it was as good as it was. I mean, you've heard me say that Adama is better when he doesn't think, when he relies on pure instinct, because he tends to overcomplicate things. But you're quite right. It was interesting watching the Leicester fans because they properly turned. The substitutions that Van Nistelrooy made prompted a chorus of "You don't know what you're doing," and I have to shout out to the Fulham faithful. They were immense, and there were quite a lot of boos, but you couldn't hear it because the Fulham fans just kept cheering and cheering and singing and singing. But there seems to be, from the outside looking in, a real divide opening up between the fans and the club at Leicester, and we all know how that goes. I think they're done. I genuinely think they're done. But you're right. We didn't look in trouble at all. When I saw Kearney came on, I knew exactly what Silva wanted to do. He just wanted to keep the ball. He wanted to keep the ball and let Tom stroll around, dictating the speed of the game. My only only disappointment was that I was desperate for the last 20 minutes to see Ryan come on, because it would have been the sort of game where we were in total control. He wouldn't have had much to do defensively, i.e. covering, doubling back to help Robinson, and you could have got some minutes under him and helped rebuild his confidence. I was desperate to see him come on, but he didn't. But yeah, I mean, if we'd have been someone like Liverpool, in the sense of, they've got that mercenary instinct about them, merciless, we'd have scored about 4. But we got to 2, and yeah, we were okay. Never in trouble.
We did miss a few sitters though. I think we need to talk about the Muniz miss, because talking about a player that has too much time to think, and with a ball coming across and maybe not having enough time to think, I can't even explain how he missed that. He's basically not hit the target from 5 yards out with no goalkeeper in front of him, which is shocking when you think about it. But at 2-0, you don't really bat an eyelid about it. But you can guarantee if the game was a draw at the time and he'd missed that, he'd be getting absolutely slated for the miss. I can't really explain. Can either of you two sort of throw anything to how he's missed it, or just this is just one of those things that
he should have finished it?
Yeah, Mozza's right. I mean, the ball came in quite quickly, but if it doesn't come in quickly, it's not getting across the goal. And as a striker, you need to know you've got to put something behind it to turn its momentum back, and he didn't. I mean, it comes with experience, and he doesn't. His head doesn't drop, but yeah, I mean, it was for a striker that's being talked about as a £30 million target for West Ham. Someone needs to send him that tape. Yeah, because you can't. That's just you can't.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I just laughed when I saw it, because it's the sort of thing I expect from him. Ironically enough, when we had that you've already talked about it, Ash, the attack on about 37 minutes, when we just kept passing it instead of shooting, that made me angry, because no one took responsibility. Yeah. Whereas Muniz, you just think, well, he was in the right place, but I mean, there's no. It's just you just shrug your shoulders,
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Obviously, the game sort of finishes 2-0. Not really much anything happens after that to the end of the game. We sort of just passed the ball around the back a bit, passed the ball through Leicester a few times. Really, really frustrate them. Their fans were really getting on them. I wish I could say good luck to them for the rest of the season, but I think they're in some real dire problems. They've got some real, real dire problems there, because there just seems to be no urgency amongst them. When you're in a relegation fight, and if they don't think they are, then they'll be on kidding themselves, and you show nothing against a team like us, who we tend to have moments where we're quite feeble. It's a bit shocking.
Can I just
Lads, let's
say,
finish
Ash,
this.
just quickly,
Go
one
on,
thing
go
about
on, go ahead.
Leicester. I
Yeah.
think you can say as much as you want about effort and tactics. I just don't think they're very good. I don't think they've got the talent. I genuinely don't think they've got the talent. I think Ipswich are streets ahead of them. But anyway, sorry, Foxes. I don't mean to rub it in.
No, it's. I think they rely on Jamie Vardy a little bit too much, and I think his legs just aren't what they used to be anymore. And it's sad to see, but he's at that age now where you can't be relying on 36, 37, however old he is. Jamie Vardy to be
38.
like 38. You can't be relying on a 38-year-old to be, the reason why you stay in the Premier League. It's just not gonna work. And
To be fair to the Leicester fans, they know that their other big bane. They complain heavily about Skip and Winks, and the other one was Jordan Ayew, who is just a one-trick pony. Who tries to get fouled all the time. But they've got no real. They've got no. Yeah, they just don't have the talent. They just simply don't have the talent.
no,
it's complete rebuild.
It's a shame, but it's a shame, but it is what it is, really, for them, isn't it? I think that maybe they probably got promoted a year too early for them to get a team together. But we'll go from that. Let's finish this match review how we always do, guys. I want a man of the match with some honourable mentions from both of you for Fulham. before we move on. Mozza, let's start with you, mate. Give us a few honourable mentions and a man of the match, please.
Okie doke. Yeah, my honourable mentions go to Lukic first up. I think primarily for the reason that I'm going to assume the role of AJ here, but he's now got the joint most amount of yellow cards this season in the Premier League. So he's very much following in the footsteps of his old cohort, João Palhinha, I think, taking a leaf out of his book. But joking aside, I think he had a really good game. He could have done better, but I thought he really asserted himself, made some great challenges. And it was lovely to see him back with Sander Berge, as I said at the start. My other honourable mention will go to Harry Wilson. Even in the first half, I thought he was very energetic, making runs as he usually does, and 2 assists, both goals. So it would be him. But my man of the match goes to Anthony Robinson. Again, just very much for the work rate. I thought out of all of the squad, from what I could see on screen, and feel free to disagree with me in a minute, Drew, it seemed like he was sort of directing from the back, which is a role that I thought Anderson was usually good at, but I mean, that's a whole different kettle of fish. He seems to be a bit off at the moment. But yeah, I thought Robinson was really good in control and almost was he captain yesterday? Sorry. He just seemed to ooze that sort of captain charisma for me. So that's my answer.
That's fair enough. Drew, I'm going to go before you on this one, just because I want you to have the final say on this one, because you were the one who was at the game, so you had a better view than all of us. But for me, my honourable mentions, I agree, Lukic, and I would actually give an honourable mention, would have been Anthony Robinson for me. But for me, the man of the match is Sander Berge. I think that he's proved already one game back what we've missed. He gave us, him and Lukic together seem to give us a real resilience in the centre of the park, and it really does help, the players outside of them go and play their game a little bit better than they actually could. And I was very impressed with him yesterday. Considering the fact he still isn't 100% fit, but to have him back and to have him playing and to already show why we missed him so much. For me, he would be my man of the match. Drew, I'm going to give you final say on this one, but as we say, give us your honourable mentions and your man of the match, please.
Honourable mentions. I thought Bassi had a good game. I thought Leno recovered from the nightmare that was Tuesday night. Obviously, he made that save from Castagna, which could have seen a continuation of the disaster that was Tuesday night through to Saturday. Interesting, Mozza mentions about Anderson. Doesn't look completely confident to me. Interesting, Mozza picked up on that. Man of the match was there, and it was Berge by, I'm not going to say a country mile, but he makes such a difference. What was interesting is that he was played at the 6 and not the 8. Silva moved Lukic further forward. And Lukic grew into the game, especially in the second half. But Berge was consistent all the way throughout. Honourable mentions, Adama. I mean, he did what you wanted him to do when he came on, stretched the field, scored the goal. Fair play to ESR, anonymous in the first half, but stuck with it, scored, and as his confidence returned, became more influential. But Berge for me he's the reason that arguably the Palhinha-sized hole that we had in the team isn't so obvious now. It does worry me, though, how effective we would be without the Berge-Lukic axis, because I do not think we are anywhere near the team that we are when we have both of them. Although, having said that, it's super nice that Harrison Reed is back, because we've missed that sort of tenacity in midfield. But yeah, Berge was everything you want it to be, and quite easily. And I'll say this now: a steal at 20 million.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. But we were already worried after his first sort of game and a half playing for us, but he's proven since that he's really hit the ground running at Fulham, and quite possibly the best money we've ever given Burnley ever. So it's well worth it. So we'll go with that. Lads, thank you very much for joining me on this match review. We'll be back on Friday with our Man United preview. We have our special guests joining us again from the United and Everything Football podcast, Kwame and Kwame. They'll be joining us So we have some Man United fans joining us for the preview of the game on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Lovely time for a kickoff. We'll moan about that, no doubt, during the episode and look up for the game. Other than that, I hope you all have a good week. Let's enjoy another Fulham victory. Look forward to playing Man United at the Cottage on Saturday. Other than that, have a good week and come on, you Whites.